This armory protects my heart.
G2A.com presents.
Oh my gosh, I have nothing to play. Like, nothing.
Yo, kids, stop your grumble mumbling. Check out G2A.com. New hottest game. Bam!
Crazy discounts?
Pow! Instant delivery? Man, this site's crazy. G2A.com, a global operated marketplace. Games, software, time cards, and all that your sweet gamer's heart can desire. Buy digital goods, sell digital goods, go crazy.
E-Gaming Bets. We accept bets on computer games online since 2011. Referral system for regular users and deposit for newcomers. Gaming devices store and the best choice of payment systems. Dota 2 and Hearthstone. Counter-Strike and StarCraft. World of Tanks and League of Legends. EGB.com. You know for sure who is going to win.
Welcome, Counter-Strike fans, to the second season of CounterPit League. I'm, of course, your host, Jim Anesso, and tonight I'll be joined by none other than two infamous Aussie casters in PK and PDG. How are you going this evening, gents?
Good. It feels strange. I hope that people forgive us for the fact that we're invading their league. We are from Australia, as you pointed out, but we are trying our hand, trying our best to help out in the absence of the normal North American casters. So unfortunately, I think they had the misfortune of someone having a traffic accident, running into their local light pole and disconnecting all power from their suburb. So we've stepped up to the mark and trying to do our best tonight.
Yeah, we've actually already casted this match, which is really once in a season, like probably once in a lifetime opportunity, really, to cast the same game 2 weeks apart with two different rosters. So the first week of this tournament, we casted Winterfox versus Splyce with their old lineup. Splyce actually came out 2-0 ahead in that matchup in the first round of Counter-Strike action, but Winterfox are going to be back with a vengeance, taking on the new Splyce team, which is, of course, the old Dogmen roster that was acquired on the 31st of December by Team Splyce. So we've got Jason R, Aria, Abe, Professor Chaos, and I believe they're using Davey today as their fifth. Those five players making up the Splyce roster, and of course a well-known and very well-supported Winterfox team consisting of Lex, Flowstick, Anger, XP3, and Desi. They're obviously a well-known roster with, known for being pretty well supported in their quest to become professional gamers, making the move to Chicago themselves and setting up a gaming house and trying to make that big leap. But it comes down to whether or not you can win games and string together some form, and we hope to see Winterfox doing that today.
Yeah, it's interesting for me when we talk about the quirkiness of the fact that we've already casted the same match in terms of the team names, but just for everyone's information as well, obviously the season started being a 6-team round robin with, I guess, all the teams vying for that first place prize, which is, of course, that trip to the LAN finals in Split, Croatia in March. We've already seen teams such as Immunity qualify from Australia. We've already had a few direct invites, so teams such as Envious, Navi, and Virtus Pro have already confirmed. But with the old Splyce team, Peter and co, dying or disbanding, it's actually changed the format of this competition to just a 5-team round-robin group. And that first match that we spoke of will actually be disregarded in the sense. So any matches that Splyce team had played will be struck from the record. So this is essentially the second match technically of the season. But yeah, really looking forward, because it's been quite a break now with the Chrissy break, the New Year's. It's been quite few and far in between the games that we've seen this season. So I'm wondering what sort of impact that will have.
Yeah, hopefully not too much of an impact. As we said, having already, I guess some teams have had a test run, namely Winterfox, and it was an interesting match too, because obviously we weren't casting that one, we were just merely spectators there. We saw Winterfox mount a massive comeback against Method, I believe, on that Mirage map. So they're certainly capable of great things. I think it's just about time that they flex their muscle.
Yeah, they did win 2-0. Crucially for me, when I look back at that match, is the fact that the maps that were played on that day aren't the same that will be played tonight. So tonight we will have Inferno first up, which was the choice of Winterfox, and that'll be followed thereafterwards by Cache, which was the choice of the current Splyce team. Now, if we look back at some of the recent history on those two sort of maps, we can see that Winterfox have won twice on Cache. I think they won in the relegation match against Denial just recently on Cache. They also beat, I think it was, they beat the old Splyce team on Cache just recently as well. So they've had success on those maps, whereas I think the current form up of Dogmen / Splyce have had a little bit more trouble. They just...
I think, unfortunately, Skype is cut out there on poor old PK Noodle, but nonetheless, I see the chat giving us a bit of stick for the way we pronounce Cache. I think it cut out everything you just said there, unfortunately, Nick.
I think I'm having some internet troubles. Hopefully you can still hear me. I do apologise. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
I'm not sure what you missed there or what you dropped off, but I guess the moral of the story was that both teams were coming with mixed results on the maps, where we'd seen Splyce have a few losses on the two maps that we'll see tonight in the form of Cache and Inferno, whereas Winterfox have had a little bit more success. So they've got the track record there to speak of.
And I mean, we did talk about the warm-up run that Winterfox had by the Splyce match that they lost, first of all, not counting towards their results, but having casted that game and actually seeing it unfold, play by play, I can assure you that Winterfox were absolutely in position to win that game. And for the old Splyce team, Peter just went absolutely off tap for both maps. I think he was 30 plus in both of those encounters and really carried, like hard carried, that Splyce team to a 2-0 win. So even though they did get beaten and the Splyce lineup was able to take two maps off them previously, I would have to think that it would be pretty hard to replicate that sort of form that Peter was in that day for that Splyce lineup.
I think when you're talking in the in-game or pre-game there, Pete, about the Winterfox lineup being the team that needs support, I thought that was a nice storyline. I think it really adds a lot of context, or a team that has support, sorry. Because you're right, they do have that partnership with SteelSeries. They now train full-time in the Chicago headquarters. They're a team that really has everything that they need to succeed, but really hasn't yet taken that next step and got those results. So there's a lot of, I guess, public expectations on them. But for me, the storyline with Splyce is the fact that they've really had some trouble over the past few months finalising their roster and finding a composition of 5 players that they like. I mean, if we look back recently at the past few months when they were previously known as 3-Sup and also Dogmen, they've had that core of the team, the Jason R, the Aria, Abe for quite some time, but they've experimented with players such as Mo, with Kiko, with Davey, who will be subbing in tonight. They played with Wabbit, I think I said that correctly, for a short period of time as well, but they haven't quite found that composition of 5, and that's really been the journey for these guys, trying to find the roles and the players that fit those roles to help them to succeed. They've got that potential, but until they get that lineup right, you just feel that could be holding them back a little bit.
I mean, I think a lot of teams that either get to the semi-professional level, amateur level, invite level, all different levels, they all go through the same basic struggle of trying to find 5 consistent players that fit well together and gel well as a team, and they're able to build chemistry with. And we take for granted sometimes that rosters are able to do that with such ease, and players are able to transition between rosters with such ease. And that really talks to the skill level of the individuals sometimes, just as much as it talks about the skill level actually contained within the lineup. Because even star players can clash and not mesh well. So, I mean, everyone can relate to what Dogman / Splyce are going through in terms of the constant changing of the rosters, trying to find those pieces. But all you can do is continuously play hard and try and fill the gaps the best you can, and try and let the results, dictate the direction the lineup goes.
I think probably the biggest thing going for them to help in that regard and that process that you're talking about is that their team captain, Aria, is a really accomplished and experienced player in the North American scene from what we understand. I mean, he's been playing top-level CSGO since 2013. He's the in-game leader in the AWPA, so carries a lot of responsibility within the team and shoulders it quite well. But I think having those experienced players in the team certainly helps with that transition and can help with perhaps some of the newer players to really be a bit more at ease and feel comfortable within the team so that they can succeed, such as your Jason R's and such as your Abes. I think having that experienced core group really is a benefit for a team going through this process.
Yeah, a lot of teams do struggle sometimes, as you said, find that right balance. And I think the tried and tested method, at least nowadays, is getting that right mix of old heads, experience, but new, fresh talent, new young blood that I guess from time to time would breathe life into a team in terms of motivation and the hunger and the drive to really take them to that next level.
What are our thoughts, guys, on terms of, on the Winterfox side, the fact that they've got a gaming house? That's something that in Australia, unheard of. We've never...
Dream.
Apart from, I guess, the current Renegades team, which, of course, is from Australia, but spends most of their time in North America these days and is actually part of this CounterPit season. They're obviously, when they spend their time in NA, are in Las Vegas together in a hotel. But apart from that one instance, it's something that we've never seen in our scene. So what are your thoughts on that sort of regard in terms of team chemistry and bonding? Is it a good thing for them?
Well, I mean, a gaming house, provided that it's got the right environment, will be extremely beneficial to a team, especially in the midst of a season like this that actually translates into an overseas journey. You know, there's a lot of money and funding that goes into often sending from Australia as well, teams to go over to Europe, you know, maybe even up to a month early to properly prepare for teams and get the correct amount of practice in and try and adapt different play styles to maybe a slightly more European meta, depending on, you know, which teams are playing in which competitions and all that sort of stuff. So having that gaming house sort of does help that time together to really make yourself comfortable around others. I mean, when you're playing on LAN and when you're playing in big tournaments, preparing yourself mentally and being able to play at your maximum capacity and being able to, you know, completely cap out your skill level in tournaments, a lot of that has to do with how comfortable you are and the situation you're in. And certainly having a gaming house would help with those adaptions, but it has to be the right environment because, of course, the other side of the coin, the Harvey Two-Face coin, is that if you flip it and it doesn't end up on your side, then it can very quickly lead to the team's demise because you're in each other's faces all the time.
Reference game on point there with the Batman reference. I love that. I love The Dark Knight. Quality movie there. But no, you're exactly right. And I think a lot of people have spoken. We've seen it work the other way before. I mean, the old Titan team comes to mind where they had a gaming house, but perhaps personalities and that sort of constrained environment can sometimes not necessarily match up the best. But for these guys, I think it's probably a good thing, at least in the short term, like you're saying there, to try and at least get them over this hump and put some of this support that they've got to good use, at least in terms of the context of CounterPit Season 2. Jim, I know you've been running some of the numbers as we're doing as much preparation and background research as we could heading into this with our last-minute call-up.
I'm the numbers man now.
The numbers man, you've taken it off myself, which I'm not too sure I'm happy about, but in terms of Winterfox and the players to look out for, I think you'd been running the numbers there and crunching perhaps who the highest rating player in the team is?
Yeah, look, obviously the highest rated player in Winterfox is none other than Desi. Funnily enough, I think we spoke about the team roles, and he wasn't identified as an entry fragger, but he actually had the highest entry ratio of the team, sitting on 0.98%, ahead of Anger, who is, I guess, more of a point man for the team. It was only, I guess, 0.03% in it, but it was still a higher rating, so...
I think, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I remember there was an interview with XP3 just recently, I think, at one of the competitions he did with HLTV.org. It was actually a fantastic interview, but he was talking about the fact that Desi is more of the sort of player that has a lot of skills and they like to almost unleash him to do his own thing. He's the sort of player that will go off solo and try and really cause as much chaos, forgive the pun there, but as much disruption as he can, given that he's got those skills and has that freedom. I guess for any Australian listeners who might be a little bit unsure about an equivalent, he's perhaps the sort of player like a Destiny, where as an in-game leader, you'll let him do his own thing and you back him to make the right decisions and cause as much chaos amongst their foes as you possibly can. So I think his in-game rating and stats really back up the fact that he is a really dangerous player and has quite a reputation going for him.
Yeah, and every team needs someone like that.
Yeah, and as the strategic side of Counter-Strike Go continues to develop, as the developers change the meta of the game and introduce and take away new weapons, and pro players are constantly having to adapt to either changes being made by the developer and changes in the meta, and the brilliant new strategy we've seen coming out in sort of the last 6 to 12 months especially, there's less and less ability for teams to just get 5 really sharp players and just make a team. But if you're going to do that, the skill level of each player has to be so high that you're basically having to literally make a superstar team. There's no way to just make a team of 5 really good players and make that work on any sort of meaningful level in any big scene. And players like your Desi, who obviously can have the skills and has the skills there, but also that experience and that in-game knowledge and the quality decision making. When your key player, your playmaker, has those talents, it makes it a lot easier to be versatile in the way that you play the game. So I think moving forward, Winterfox need to make sure that they've got the key players in the right positions, and you've got players like Anger, and I guess Desi and Anger really opening up those bomb sites for Winterfox.
Most of the players are joining the server now, so I think we've got about, looks by quick counts, about 6 or 7, so we should get started shortly. It is worth reminding people, for those who might not be as familiar with, I guess, the structure and the rules necessarily of this specific competition, that the way that the maps were decided was that it was a double veto, where each team was allowed from the pool of 7 maps to remove 2 of their choice, and then from the remaining 3, they each picked their preference. But we've spoken in the past, Jim, especially in Australia, where we were seeing in our league and in our group stage some newer teams there, and we mentioned the fact, didn't we, that with newer teams that perhaps don't have that map pool depth and haven't spent as much time together, that having 2 vetoes each does cater to that team, because they can instantly remove perhaps 2 of their weaknesses and can focus more on a few key maps in the pool.
Exactly right. I mean, it's a tough ask for any team to have map strength through the entire pool, and particularly the newer teams do struggle with any sort of format that asks them to go even a best of 3 at times. So that double veto, having that up their sleeve, can really play into the hands of the newer teams and just allow them to focus on a core of maybe 2 or 3 maps, particularly in the early days, and really get things right. And it does see them go perhaps a little bit further in this style of competition than they would in a traditional best of 3 format. So I do subscribe to that thought.
Yeah, I know it's interesting, because I know just recently as well, Lurpus was sharing his similar views when he did a Counterpoints episode with Thorin and Semler, talking about the fact, or raising the discussion point, whether the fact that it is a 7 map pool, quite large, especially driven by our past standards in Counter-Strike 1.6, which featured a much smaller pool, whether that was perhaps starting to detract away from some of the strategic elements of the game, the fact that teams have to prepare across so many different maps, and at least in the sake of CounterPit, as you're talking about, where you are allowed the double veto, it does help to at least take away one less stress on the team. I know that they're always juggling a lot of different things, but it does help in that small regard.
100%.
Counter-Strike's a very unique game in the sense that there are so many variables in this video game compared to almost any other competitive game I can think of, whereby there's 7 different maps, and within those maps there are so many choke points, and when a player dies, they drop utilities and they drop items, and you can change items mid-round, and you can switch players almost completely freely between bomb sites, and all these different variations mean that more than ever now teams are having to sort of stick to at least a structure on all maps that's relatively transferable between maps. So even though the specifics of the map may change, their approach and their philosophy towards how they play each map is going to, the good teams is consistent throughout that sort of strategy portion of the game. So when we look at a team like Winterfox, we expect the same sort of slow, methodical play that we've seen 2 weeks ago when we casted the game against the old Splyce team, for example. We'll see a lot of the same sort of methodical stuff on T side, and I'm sure a lot of the same sort of aggressive stuff where Flowsick on CT side likes to get in the faces of his opponents and really try and disrupt the T side strategy.
I might just pick your brains there for a second, Pete, because we've still got a little bit of time to fill in. In regards to Inferno in particular, I mean, what are your thoughts in terms of the current meta? Because for those who don't know, there's probably a lot of people who don't know any of us, given that we're Australians, but Pete himself has actually just finished playing. He actually used to play for a team in Australia called Chiefs, which is actually the 2nd best team in Australia, just behind Immunity. Of course, we're not considering Renegades, given that they spend most of their time here in America themselves. So Pete's a high-level player, played and won many nationals himself. But in terms of Inferno in particular, Pete, what will you be expecting from the teams?
Well, from any good Inferno team, it's all going to be about how well your CT clicks and how many rounds you can get up on the board with your CT side. So that really hasn't changed. But the style in which the T side has changed has been so drastic over the last sort of 6 to 12 months as different weapons have become, more viable and less viable, and all these different changes. The middle of the map is now far more crucial than it used to be, especially since in the development of how to actually implement Molotovs, because even though Molotovs have been in the game for quite some time, at the very highest level it's taken players and teams a little bit of time to adapt to the fact that how to use them properly and exactly when and where to throw these Molotovs to get the most possible advantage out of each one. So as that's sort of developed as the game in CSGO, maps like Inferno with really narrow choke points, especially the B-bomb side and the banana side of things, became really difficult to use as T, especially early. So there's been a lot more emphasis put on the mid battle and the speed in which different teams take mid and how they manipulate the two CT players that rotate between A and B is going to be the key here for any team playing Inferno. But the team starting today, obviously Winterfox or Splyce, I assume they would both try to get on the CT side of things. It would be a pretty drastic choice to start on the T side. But whichever team starts T first, they're going to try and obviously get that pistol, and then after that, just try and grind out as many rounds as they can, and try and control the money as well. So getting a lot of kills and losing the round can still be very good on Inferno, because once you finally get over that hump and win a round, you can put the other team in a very poor financial state, in which case they have to eco, and those are a few more easy rounds you can get away with on T side.
It almost puts, even more so than any other map though in the pool does, it almost puts more of a premium on that T-pistol round, because you know how difficult it is to secure rounds on gun rounds when teams have full weaponry, full utility, can really use those grenades well to lock out those choke points until very late in the round. Because it's so difficult to get those gun rounds, you know that if you get that pistol and perhaps set yourself up well to get those subsequent anti-eco rounds, that's instantly 3 that you could, I guess, put in the bag and bank on later on in the match. So it really, really puts a lot of pressure, I feel, on teams that are on that T-pistol round, knowing that there's a lot of, I guess, a lot riding on that in the context of the match itself.
Yeah. Sorry, you go, Jim.
I guess it depends too on the current mindset of the team, whether or not they've actually had a chance to, and I would assume so, that they've had a chance to run through things earlier in the day. I know for a team that's starting cold on a T side early in a competition, particularly on a map like Inferno, things can go pretty pear-shaped pretty quickly. And likewise on the CT as well. So if they're not there in working order and fail to capitalise on that stronger CT side, that's where we could see things go very pear-shaped for them.
I might just like to give a quick shout out as well, if I could, to the admins who are currently supporting us as always, because I know when the match was being played in Australia, the conversion from Croatian time to Australian time wasn't so bad. But with the current time zone, I guess, here in North America, I think the poor guys are up until about 4 or 5 in the morning. That includes the admins that are in the server right now, the admins behind the scenes doing all the overlays and, I guess, administrative side of things. So that's a massive commitment for those guys, and we really appreciate all their support in terms of making this run as smoothly as possible in what is the dead of the night for them right now.
Yeah, and the regular casters as well, we can't forget those guys, because I think it's both Lighters and Congo from South Africa that normally take this shift, and it's about 4 AM for those guys right now, so appreciate the fact that they would have been up either late or early, depending on what their sleeping pattern was, trying to get their heads around this game.
You're not going to lie, I love the Australian midday cast that we've got going on here now though. It's the easiest cast we've ever done in terms of time zone. I love this.
It's almost therapeutic. You get to sit down at your computer at midday, you get to watch some fantastic international CS that we get to commentate on, so everything's coming up for us. And just so everyone knows, we're still waiting on a few members of the Splyce roster to join the server. All of Winterfox are there, so shouldn't be too long. But I will just get both of your thoughts on something very quickly. We did speak about how one-sided and how this map is, and how each team would be trying to get to that CT side. I think there is definitely always a level of confidence you start with if you're on the T side, because there isn't that pressure on the T pistol on the first few gun rounds that you normally would have on if you started T side on the second half. So unless you get a really big score like a 13-2 or a 14-1 on your CT side, if you get that 9-6, 10-5 region, which can happen a lot if you let a few easy rounds go, all of a sudden that T pistol round when you move from CT onto T becomes so much more pressurized for you because you know how much rides on it. So, I mean, what do you guys think of that situation?
So you're talking about, because we've already, I guess, mentioned the fact that there's a lot riding on it, but you're talking about that being, I guess, exacerbated by a team that then moves onto the tee on the second half and knows that
correct.
Perhaps on the more difficult side that it has even more importance that they're to try and close out the match. Yeah, I can see the merit in what you're saying. I'm not sure, though, to be honest, really as a player, whether that would really come into my thinking and mentality that much. I mean, I can certainly see from a logical point of view that, yes, you're probably right, there would be more pressure, but I think that the players are just focused on winning every round here and now. I'm not sure if they'd necessarily take that too much into consideration. That's just me, though.
I guess it depends on how the first couple rounds go for a lot of teams. So that pressure starts to mount as the rounds go by, and if you're not winning them, that certainly can have a snowball effect for some teams.
My turn to ask you two a question. Do you think that, obviously we're in the new year right now, do you think that any of these teams' New Year's resolution is winning CounterPit Season 2 NA? Is that a possibility?
Well, if their New Year's resolution isn't native res, I don't know what else it would be.
I mean, it should be.
It should be.
It should be, because especially the Winterfox, they got a basically get out of jail free card from the Monopoly man as they pass go. The old Splyce lineup did not collect their $200, and Winterfox basically, got out of jail free straight away. They've got an opportunity to analyze what went wrong, apart from Peter destroying them on 2 maps. A lot of times you can narrow it down to something, just one player just wrecking you, but in Winterfox's case, with what their ambition should be, and everything that we've heard, even from quite a distance away around the world, all we've heard about what they're trying to achieve, not just with this roster but as an org, clearly trying to be a threat come any sort of international tournament. So for them, the ambition should be to win every comp, I guess.
It's interesting that you bring up Monopoly, because I slightly diverge from the topic of Counter-Strike for a second. It's been brought to my attention just recently. Did you know that Monopoly actually customise their version of the game depending on what region you're in to make it more applicable? Obviously here in Australia we're familiar with the fact that it's all London-based, all the tiles on the board, but they've actually released a Sydney and Melbourne exclusive version. So I assume that in America they've got a New York version of Monopoly.
They do theme stuff all the time. They do Star Wars. They do.
Yeah, well, I played it just recently. I couldn't get out of jail. Every single time I went around the board, I ended up in jail.
They do a
It's
rugby
horrible.
league version here in Australia as well, so it's not beyond them.
Fascinating point of discussion.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm a LA Lakers fan, so my version of reality at the moment is trying to get the #1 draft pick, Ben Simmons. So hopefully they release some sort of draft monopoly where I can finally feel at home for my poor Lakers. They're just gross. Sorry, it's very upsetting. And any opportunity I get to bag out on the Lakers is just my favorite part of the day.
You can probably tell, given the fact that our conversation has gone away from Counter-Strike, that we are still waiting for a couple of players to join up. Bear in mind that this is their first official competitive Counter-Strike match of the year, so they're probably still loading up the PCs for the first time in the year. I'm sure these players wouldn't have played any Counter-Strike up until this point. Of course, I'm just kidding, but no, I think we've got at the moment 4 of Winterfox, but Splyce having a little bit of trouble. They had 2 members, they've now just got 1. So we mentioned the fact that they were having roster troubles. Perhaps that's not just out of game, but also actually joining the server as well.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm going to go out there and just say, Bot Vinny is on 18 frags in this warm-up.
That's actually the second most in the server. He's outrating Anger, Desi. Can't work out who's Oso at the moment because they're using a funny alias, but needless to say, he's on points right now.
And before we dive too deeply into the stats of Bot Vinny and exactly how well he's running around the server, we might take this opportunity, even though it'll cut into a little bit later, the matchup of Keish.
Yes.
Now, obviously, Inferno's Inferno, you're going to try and get CT side. Now, Keish is a little bit different in terms of the way that map's structured. It's a very even map, and throughout the map's history, the meta has changed quite drastically from being a very CT-sided map at one point to being a very T-sided map at one point, and now I think Keish can be considered one of the more balanced maps in Counter-Strike at the moment. So it is a great second map for both teams, because if Winterfox or whoever starts on CT Splyce, I'm sort of picking Winterfox to come away with the first map as their pick on Inferno. I think that they'll just be a little bit more prepared. Well, they should be a little bit more prepared, and this being their pick, I think they should come away with it. But if all doesn't go right and Winterfox either goes down or wins a very shaky game, Cache is a great second map for them because they get to come on, and no matter which side that they get on the second map, they feel as though they can get themselves into the game.
My issue that I've got with Cache, I know that the common perception at the moment is that Dust 2 is commonly referred to as a pug map. A map that pug teams or a team that hasn't been around so long will do extremely well on. It's a map that lends itself to aim duels, very large, etc. My perception is that Cache is quickly becoming a similar sort of map. I had a look at a stat that HLTV.org released not too long ago. Would have only been in the last week or so when they were doing their really wrap-up of 2015. And I think that they pointed out that Cache, over the course of the year, in competitive environments, offline and online, that Cache was the second most played map out of the pool of 7. And it was very, very close to the first. I think the first was actually Mirage from reference. But Cache was so close to being the most popular map. Now, my issue is that with teams playing it that much these days, that it starts to lend itself to really taking away that advantage that a practice team would have more so than other maps. I think that these guys will have a lot of playing time on the map. I think that there would be no clear advantage for me in either team's favour as we move into that second map, just purely from the fact that it's getting played that much these days. And I don't think that either team's, I guess, longevity would really factor into it as much.
I'm going to raise this again, the debate. We've been called out for our pronunciation of Cache.
Oh no, not
Cache.
this again.
What is it supposed to be? It's Cache.
It's Cache.
But what's it supposed to be? Catchy.
No, the argument is that it should be pronounced, is it cash?
Cash.
I think that's what the Americans say.
Like
Cash money.
CASH? Like
Yeah,
cash money.
like they just forget that there's an E on the end.
Ah, I see. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, there is an E on the end. So all we can do is read the word on our screen and pronounce it the way that we speak in our native tongue. But certainly, I wouldn't be opposed to calling the map DE Skrilla, because that's sort of the same. DE Benjamin, just any sort of slang for cash you can think of.
DE Franklin.
DE Make It Rain.
DE Make It Rain. Okay. Yeah, we'll see if that one catches on. But no, we do apologise. Hopefully people did understand the reference that Cache is the same as Cash. If they're wondering whether their new map had been added to the pool, no, it has not. So hopefully you can understand our Australian language at least enough to get the gist of what we're saying.
I do want to go back to a point you made about cash money being played so much that everyone has a base level of understanding of the map, I think is what you tried to get across. I would put to you that the more a map gets played in the pug sense or even just popularly played, it's actually not easier to compete on those maps. It actually gets harder. So if a team's actually picking Cache, from my perspective as an ex-player, if a team picked Cache against us, it wasn't that they thought that Cache was a decent map of theirs and they could have a run of, trying to random us on Cache because it's Cache. It was often the case where, like Dust 2, teams don't generally for years and years and years, dating back to 1.6, Source, and Go as well, unless you're good on Dust 2, you don't just pick Dust 2. Because you've played it heaps and you're very familiar, and it's even though it's played a lot at tournaments as well back in 1.6, like you still didn't see a lot of teams picking it unless they were confident on that map.
I disagree, Pete. For the complete opposite. I mean, you see teams who are normally the more favoured in the context of Dust 2 at least, and then I'll go on to Cache, who are going into matchups deliberately removing it from the pool because of that inherent variability within the map and that perception that it does lend itself more to pug teams. I think that Cache is going down that route as well, where you will see teams starting to remove it when they have the choice, when they're versing less familiar or lesser strength teams, for that very reason that it is getting played more and is that inherent and basic knowledge that you're talking about is there. I disagree.
All right, well, there's a first time for everything.
It's not the first time we've disagreed, Pete.
No, it's definitely not the first time we've disagreed on anything. But no, and all you can really do is in your own mind, and this is why casting is such a pleasure for us, because we get to see all these different scenarios unfold in different regions as well. I mean, we watch heaps of European Counter-Strike at the majors and all the different tournaments. Now we get a first-hand look at some NACS, and it's just a great experience for us to try and piece all these different bits of information together and try and come up with, proper theories about what's going on.
Just to reiterate as well, in case there's a few people panicking, I can confirm the admins have just let us know that they are actually changing servers as well. Apparently, there were some technical issues with this server, so the fact that all the players have disappeared just means that they're currently rejoining the other server. So momentarily, once we're fed the information, we'll jump in as well, and the match should get started very, very soon. We do apologise, of course, but
the technical issue was about Bot Vinny. He was just going a little bit too hard.
Well, at the end of the day, I guess with so much variety on this competition, this being a competitive, professional environment, I mean, these teams, some of them are paid, these players are paid to compete, and there's certain expectations of their performance. So, of course, you can only understand when they'd want to make sure that all the server side and technical issues were as they should be, because there's a lot riding on these matches for these sort of players. And I don't blame them at all for just wanting to perhaps jump in another server if people are lagging or a little bit of stuff like that. So please bear with the players. And we'll endeavour to jump in the right server and get this match started.
And thanks for riding with us as well as we frantically try and string together what is now 33 minutes of filler about teams that, let's face it, and a scene that we haven't had too much experience with. So I do appreciate everyone out there who's trying to watch this game.
There's only so much information that Google can give us, Pete.
Yeah, correct. So thanks for everyone out there who's giving us a fair go and as we say, like San Australia, a fair shake at the sauce bottle. Thanks for giving us the opportunity. And this game should start like a rat up a drain pipe. Keen to get some meat. Too far with the Australianisms?
Yeah.
I honestly have no idea what you just said.
That's why you were never any good at casting the Aussie pistol rounds, Nick.
That's the reason why we scrapped them.
Yeah, you were definitely letting down your end, that's for sure.
It was horrible because I actually was, after we started doing some of the CounterPit casting for Australia, when I was joining my favourite bunny hop or jump map servers, people used to recognise me for the first time in my career and say, "Oh, Peter, you're the caster." And I go, "Yeah, that's me." And they go, "Oh, yeah, you're pretty good. You're okay to listen to, but your Aussie accent is so shit." I'm like, "Oh, great, okay, thanks for that." So it was the one down point, the one mark on my record.
It's a pretty significant mark to be.
It's a massive mark.
Australian accent when you're Australian. So.
Yeah, my bad. But no, the players, we're now in the right server. I do understand, at least on my computer. So
yeah, they're back.
They're back. So we should get started very, very soon.
Back for potentially some more Bot Vinny ownage.
Although they haven't let the bots infiltrate into this server just yet, for fears that Cloud9 might actually pick Vinny up and end all hopes of the new look Team Liquid roster with Simple. That's exciting news coming out of NA. Not that Bot Vinny's joining Cloud9, of course, but that Simple has taken his talents to Long Beach/NA.
Well, it's quite interesting that you mentioned that, because let's cast our mind back perhaps. I'm thinking it might be maybe, again, forgive me, I'm from Australia, but maybe
So
4 or 5 months.
Inglewood anyway, but
Cast my mind back 4 or 5 months, and I think Winterfox, or as they were known at the time, Luminosity or Mythic for a short period of time, they went through a similar little phase, didn't they? Where they actually got, I think it was Pith or Pite. I'm not sure what the exact pronunciation there is, in America at least, don't want to offend anyone. But they also had Pith and Devilwalk playing. So they went with the, I guess, European imports. Pith, of course, has now left the team. It's actually been picked up by NIP in what was probably the most lackluster roster announcement I've ever seen, as they've stretched it across 5 days. But we've seen Winterfox go through a similar process in the past where they've tried to call in the European imports, but probably didn't work out as well as they would have liked in that sense. So remains to be seen what impact Simple will have. Obviously, Simple's probably on another level.
I think you've got Devilwalk as well.
You know, I said Devilwalk, but yes, it's something that a few teams have tried out, I guess. Thoughts, guys?
Well,
I'm keen to see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams have tried to bring over European talents in the past to I don't know, I guess to bring some of that cachet or that different mentality across to NA. And most of the time that it's happened, it happened successfully. In the case of Devilwalk and players in the past, they've been more of an in-game leader role. It's rare that a star frag, like almost superstar talent in the European region has moved to NA into an NA team. And we haven't seen that since, I guess, NOA.
What about Zed?
No.
Zed, yeah, I guess.
Zed, Lurpus. And of course,
Lurpus wasn't a star player. Like Zet was, I'll give you Zet, that he came across as a star player. But Lurpus always came across as more of an in-game leader and strategic mind than he did.
Certainly a very high caliber player, though. I mean, he had a huge pedigree associated with him. He then took that Evil Geniuses team to the top of North America, so certainly had that huge caliber and pedigree behind him, but not necessarily that giant AIM staff raider that perhaps Zet was at the time. Of course, we're talking about Counter-Strike 1.6. That's how long ago it was since we've had that sort of player, but Simple definitely ticks off all those boxes, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of impact he has.
And I think what's the most poignant about that is that NACS, just like Australian CS in many ways, doesn't have any sort of problem producing individuals with extreme talent. And that's why when you look historically at they've tried to get over from Europe to America, they've mostly been strategic players, because that's where the big divide has been. It hasn't been in the individual skill of the aim or necessarily the mechanics of players. It's been in that in-game leader and mental approach side to the game. So now that we've got both sides of the coin coming over to NA for that salary, I think it'll be great for the scene. I hope that they go gangbusters and they win a lot of games with Simple in the lineup, and then it really works out, because then North America will have like a true representative again. Since Cloud9 have fallen off when they had that really good run of finals and semi-final appearances, even though they didn't win anything, there was a team right there drawing half the world into CSGO. And I think that it'll be great for them if Simple can click and they can get that high tier team coming out of North America again. It'll do wonders for the scene and for all the teams there.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest question mark is not his ability, but more so I think the communication. That's always pointed out as such a key thing. Coming from Ukraine, I know he's played a little bit in the past. There was that one competition where he actually played alongside Hiko, where Hiko was subbing in for Flipside, I think it was, and actually took down NIP in a competition. So those two, I think, seemed from what we saw on camera and what we heard in interviews afterwards, seemed to be getting on quite well. So it probably wasn't the biggest surprise in the world to, given that there was a spot open on Liquid and there was interest from Simple to see them teaming up again, but I'll be interested to see how the communication goes. I know he's taking English lessons from what's come out. How well and how quickly he'll be able to adapt to understand necessarily all the in-game lingo is a different question, though. Because, Pete, would you agree from your playing experience that being able to talk basic English and then communicating vital information very, very quickly in-game and very, very precisely is a completely different ballpark?
Absolutely. CS is a whole nother language. It's a form of shorthand, and the really great teams, they're able to communicate a great deal of information without saying a lot of words. And it's been brought up in the past that actually, like your Swedish and your sort of Nordic style languages in Europe are actually German, and all those sort of languages are actually more attuned to being more productive in CS in terms of communication. They're more direct. The way the language is structured is slightly better for giving orders and communication. So having to overcome that, the English is a very flowery language with a lot of space for leeway, I guess. So with that creativity also comes the fact that everyone will interpret words differently, and there can be a lot of meanings to instructions in English. So making sure everyone's on the same page and getting a clear understanding of something as simple as, calling out, oh, he's behind the left box. Now, that can mean anything to a million different players in Counter-Strike. But if in your team you have a specific box called the left box that you've named over time and developed that in your team, there's an exact place that now is without having to call specifically, which box it is, all that sort of stuff. So, language plays a huge part in communication, and communication plays a huge part in winning.
It's going to be key too for the in-game leader to articulate exactly what they want out of Simple as well. So I think there are two sides to that coin, in that it's not just he has to understand English in general conversation, but also from, as you said, that CS strategic mindset as well.
We have 10 players in the server, which is...
I'm not sure if D Stafford is one of the players, though. Is that
Davey?
That's Davey. That's Davey, yeah.
Okay, so we do have all 10 in the server, which is good to know. Thank you for bearing with us. Obviously, we've already mentioned the fact that we are Australian casters just filling in, trying to help out our friends from Croatia and from South Africa who needed someone to do the job. So we've done the best we could to provide some context to the two teams and fill in what is now probably about 45 minutes worth of talking on a scene in which we're about 14 hours flight away from. But we've done our best. Thank you for bearing with us. We'll shortly be able to bring you some headshots.
Well, what Vinny was bringing those earlier, but unfortunately they cut his playing time short.
Yeah, so now instead of saying bot someone is a bad thing, maybe we can start bot someone is a good thing. So if you're
We wanna
bot
remove
Vinny,
the
we want
negative
to remove
stigma.
the negative stigma away from the word bot. I think bots are really hard done by in today's global offensive community. But finally, ladies and gentlemen, we have the ninth round coming in here. Winterfox versus Splyce in CounterPit Season 2. All 10 players seem to be ready, have their knives out, and ready to go. Winterfox is taking their time getting out of spawn, but I think not live. Live. Knife. Not sure if this is live.
Well, one of the
So
members,
it is.
Anger, hasn't even purchased armor. I'm not sure what's going on there, but he's actually without armor here on the knife round. So there's 9 players who are probably better equipped than he is at this stage.
Jeez, they're backing off as well. They've got a very phalanx approach to the knifing hit, Winterfox.
Well, I mean, as we discussed at length previously, the knife round on Inferno, more than any other map in Counter-Strike Go currently, puts a huge emphasis on winning that knife round. Lex and Anger double up pretty quickly. Anger picks up a second one, XP3 coming in with the knife, so 3 versus 1 here for the last member of Splyce. It's not going to work out. Winterfox win the knife, Anger getting a double, and they should switch. The switch comes in from Lex, so we'll see Winterfox start on the counter-terrorist side of things, and Splyce start on the T side.
Yeah, as expected there with the change. I mean, we spoke at length probably in the pre-game that this was definitely what we would expect to see. So Winterfox on the CT side now. I'll be curious to see, from much of what we saw about probably 2 weeks ago when we did cast that first match against Peter and co, who of course were going under the name Splyce at that time. We've already pointed out that Winterfox did seem to be more of a passive team from what we could tell. Splyce at that time was certainly showing a lot more aggression in their play, and Winterfox were almost reacting to that aggression. So I'll be curious to see whether they change that up at all, given the fact that they've had 2 weeks to really reflect back on where things went wrong, even though that match technically will not count in the context of the season now. But I'm curious as to Inferno, whether we'll see any sort of banana aggression, something that is very, very common these days within the meta, trying to lock down and really take away that choke point from the terrorists. Perhaps something that Winterfox haven't showed so far based on that aggression or lack thereof, but whether they change it up today will be interesting for me.
Yeah, and I mean, with the pressure off situation, I guess, for Splyce, where they get the first bite of the apple on the T side pistol. Hopefully they can execute whatever plan they have. They've had plenty of time to come up with a pistol round strat, so we should see something pretty intricate, but I guess the meta's moved back towards a sort of a four-man group rush we've seen a lot of recently, taking the pistol round really fast on T side, especially in the NACS we've been watching. So maybe something fast just to try and get Winterfox off guard and get into those choke points nice and early. Unfortunately, one of the Splyce players has now dropped from the server. He's just reconnecting now, and they have readied up once more. So the pistol round should get underway in just a moment.
I think he might have just been fixing a name bug, because he actually changed his name to show that he is Davey and didn't quite take effect, so a quick retry fixed that up. But we will now go live, Pete.
Yeah, and finally we get some action here. Winterfox versus Splyce, Season 2 of CounterPit. The long-awaited pistol round running through the lineups for you. Winterfox, we've got Lex, Flowsick, Anger, XP3, and Desi. And for Splyce, Jason R, Aria, Abe, Professor Chaos, and today, Davey, as we see a fight coming out of mid already early, and Junior Nasty getting the better of XP3 there. Lex quickly trading as well, so you can see Flowsick making his way down Banana, putting pressure on that side of the map, but he wants to be careful here not to overextend, because if he goes down, there's not a lot of help for him at B, and that's exactly what's happened. The T's, unfortunately, not biting on the cherry that the CTs have given them, and they slowly will make their way back up mid. An effort in which Lex will say, that was the wrong decision, boys. B was the open bomb site there. And now the game is slowed right back down to a 3v3, and the T's just regrouping here, moving towards the A bomb site, which is the correct read at this point. Lex all by himself in the A bomb site. Gonna have to do this by himself, try to pick up one. He does. Excellent headshot there from the most experienced player in the Winterfox roster. It won't be enough though. Abe will get the plant and try and work this 2v2 out with his partner, which is Junior Nasty in pit. Desi and Anger trying to force their way back into the A bomb site. They do see one in pit, so Desi will fire that information off to his teammate. Abe's still in a pretty good spot here to make a play. Does make the shot with the Tech 9 and takes down Desi. Now 2 versus 1 here for Anger. And he knows where both of the opponents are, but he won't be able to do a lot, getting locked out against that left-hand side wall in jungle, and he will just run away to fight another day. I'm not sure what he's trying to do there. He's saving his armor on 11 HP. Probably going to get a pistol next round, but excellent start here for Splyce, and a well-executed round. A good patience.
Yeah, they did well to get that early frag in mid there. That really set them up. I started to worry, as you were calling, the fact that they got that frag at Banana, but really didn't capitalize on that. They almost seemed to separate, and it started to look like it was a little bit of a shamble for the team, but they did well to recover. They went up mid. Aria did have a smoke left, the in-game leader and captain, so that was put to good use there, and they were able to really pounce on that A site and get that round win. But I just want to point out the fact that I think it was that grenade
opened things up though.
Yeah, fantastic.
You saw the health of at least 3 members of Winterfox just plummet as that grenade went through. And I think Lex sat only on about 6 HP as he managed to get himself into pit.
Yeah, and I mean, a push mid from the Winterfox guys, it was something that you can expect on Inferno, so maybe a little bit of counter-stratting, maybe just a bit of generic NACS coming through there with the grenade coming up mid and doing a fair bit of damage. And certainly not surprisingly, Winterfox have decided to go for the 4 spy here. We've got a couple of 5.7s paired with a couple of P250s and the CZ on Lex, so we'll just get to see if Winterfox want to do something a little bit faster or hold their ground and try and get those entry kills with the pistols.
And they will straight away head into that Banana. Davey just trying to probe a little bit with his grenade and MAC-10 there. They are just putting a generic pressure on each of the choke points, but as you can see, just a very generic stack coming out from Winterfox nonetheless, and biding their time, not making too much of a move. They know that in close quarters those pistols can be absolutely devastating. As Flowsick there just tries to get a little bit of information for his team. That smoke again is just slowing the T's down, and it's already burnt about 40 odd seconds as we now see them coming close contact. They are going to head towards that Banana, so that bomb's just sitting there. It does have the option to fall back if need be, but they are just taking their time. Davey though has decided time is up. He does take Flowsick down quite quickly as well, and you can see that bomb site is wide open, and he's just going to charge straight in there. Does go straight through the arch, straight into CT spawn, picks up XP3 as well, will run into Anger, and does, with the help of a teammate, manage to eliminate him as well. So they do have control of that B bomb site. The plant will come down, and just Desi to contend with now is probably going to opt to try and save his pistol here in this situation. If he doesn't manage to get hunted down, it is a bit of a Harrison Ford in the fugitive situation here though.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the fact that we did see Winterfox only having 1 person at B there, I think they were almost banking on or relying on the fact that by using all those smokes and utility grenades, that not only would they stall for time enough to scare Splyce off, but they'd also get Splyce questioning how many members were actually at B as well, with the fact that so many nades were getting thrown. So in the end, it looked as though Splyce called their buff, and Davey led the charge up Banana regardless through that smoke, caught off 1 member at the car there. But I can see what Winterfox were trying to achieve.
Yeah, and just great work there from Splyce, making sure that all the players, apart from that last frag by Junior Nasty, all of the players that got the kills on Splyce did have MAC-10s. So you can see the money has already ballooned out quite substantially for the Splyce guys, getting a couple of players up near the 5k mark, in and around there, and plenty of after-buy money here coming in. So great start to this game, not just with the 2 rounds on the board, but also financially not throwing away many lives. And you can see Anger saving that pistol from last round, but everyone else on the Winterfox roster just taking it easy, not investing particularly heavily in this round at all, and just playing very default. And something that I noticed last round was the Splyce guys left second mid completely open, and Desi managed to find his way deep into the A halls last round, but didn't really give the call to his teammates to move back towards B. But Splyce showing no intention at all of committing to anything as they leave the bomb in T spawn and just frantically try and flush out the Winterfox players. Davey doing a great job there, taking down Lex, and little do they know the entire A bomb site is now at their disposal. Desi trying to furiously make the run back to to A to try and give some resistance, but he'll just water around CT spawn, and the read comes in from Splyce now, and this should be a pretty open and shut round from this point on.
Pete, I love you, mate, but I can't help but feel the need to point out that whilst Junior Nasty is probably a direct translation of how it reads, I think we're probably referring to Jason R in that instance.
Yeah, probably.
I like Junior Nasty better.
I like Junior Nasty though, just for clarity. But we can see Winterfox here just picking up a couple of frags here in CT spawn. I mean, they don't have much to go by. They just have a couple of pistols, so probably doing the best they can to cause and inflict as much damage onto the economy of Splyce as they possibly can, who do have a couple of rifles there, so Aria will be wanting to save that AK. Davey perhaps might even want to be careful with that Galil, but as the knife comes in, the shank is real as Abe has made his way through the B side and actually becomes the aggressor for a moment there and catches two members off guard. And this will now be Splyce leading 3-0 as Aria does get that final frag to close out the round as the bomb explodes.
Let it be known for the record, not only did I know that player was Jason R, I just simply prefer the alias Junior Nasty.
Okay.
It is a much better alias, and if he's moving forward in his career, he should certainly consider taking my advice, someone he's never met and probably will never meet, on what he should call himself in game.
Okay.
So,
point taken.
much love to Jason R, but Junior Nasty's the go-ahead here, mate. So, as we move into the first gun round, nothing particularly startling here from Splyce or Winterfox, to be honest. We've got the banana control coming out here from the CTs, in which Anger and Flowsick have fallen back, nestled nicely into their little B hold here, while the three Splyce players in banana try and pull pressure on. And we've got aptly named Junior Nasty and Davey holding off the A push, but Junior Nasty, aka Jason R, will pick up the first kill on Lex, which will open up that the middle of the map that I was talking about before the cast, the ability to control that area between the A and the B bomb site, crucial for the T's. But Splyce just look like they're keen on this B bomb site, at least for the next little while. Splyce will try and find one more, but Desi picks up Junior Nasty and now leaves D Stafford, aka Davey, all by himself trying to figure out A. But the good thing that they've done here is kept two players at A. You can see XP3 loitering around that jungle area and only one T in A. So the read is fantastic here from Splyce. It's just if they can manage to find their way into the B bomb site with any sort of punctuation here, as XP3 picks up the lurker, and it's all on Abe and his teammates to get into this bomb site as soon as they can. Flowsick won't have a bar, but he picks up one, he picks up two, and Anger quickly moving out of the smoke in CT, picks up the third, and pretty easy round there in the end, despite some early pressure for Winterfox.
Yeah, that was a fairly standard, fairly slow round until things open up there. And it did look like Splyce had the upper hand quite early on, and Winterfox just managing to reel things back. Flowsick locking things down that B bomb site eventually. So well done to Winterfox, taking the first important gun round. XP3 though, not messing about, straight into the action, picking up that early AWP frag, and this secondary buy round coming in from the T's are going to put a lot of pressure on the top of mid pillars here. That Molotov does block off their options quite well, and XP3 not phased by the inherent danger, does pick up a third frag for the round before Aria can end his reign of terror. And Lex at the other side there at the carpet, just putting an end to Davey's run, and they know where the last member of Splyce is, and Aria is simply just given the janitor treatment.
Yeah, I was not a huge fan of the way that Splyce approached that round. They'd actually done so well in the previous round. It's hard, I guess, losing the round the way that they did. But having got that entry kill and worked their way into A, that surely they should have seen some success again. They've not used a lot of the clock on that round and really just, I guess, force-fed XP3 a triple kill in mid there as they just tried to go one by one up mid and pick him off. And now more of a force buy already, so the huge money advantage I was talking about has already been diluted, and two players back on the Tech 9s for the terrorist side. So I guess here, Anger and Flowsick just pretty content on playing that two-man 1-2 punch in the B bomb site, not really caring about the Nana control at this point in the game. Winterfox, of course, setting up 2 and 3 at A still. XP3 not really biting on anything that Splyce is throwing out at B at the moment. Content to just sit there and watch the world go by as they mount even more pressure on on Banana at the moment, and all 5 members of Splyce coming towards B. So this is going to be a bomb site execute here, and it's all up to Flowsick and Anger to defend the bomb site.
you can see the difficulty here. By playing so passive in the sites, it's meant that Winterfox really had to rely on the two players in B to lock down this site because the rotation is so far away. You can see the flashes, the smokes. They're coming over now, so they've clearly practiced this hit. Even they are a makeshift roster, still without a proper fifth player, but they now will move in. They do take a flash or two for the cause, but crucially, they do get the trades. Jason R there, as well as Professor Chaos, making it count, so they're down to a 3-on-3. The bomb, it does get planted as well, but moments later, Lex does explode and take down Professor Chaos where he once stood, but you can see Jason R does it, and AK actually steps out, and with no smoke there, catches them off guard. I don't think they were expecting that, but it has left Dave in a 1-on-2, and his position does get found out by XP3 there as he comes through the connector, and in the end, what looked quite promising as they did make the trades into the B site, ultimately, I think they took a lot of damage, and it meant that the utility that came in from the rotators and the better positioning that the rotators were able to get really proved to be the downfall of Splyce.
Yeah, and with Splyce having that roster that's not complete at the moment, using Davey, who has stood in for them before, but is a stand-in. You will expect them to struggle to really fake bomb sites out properly. So Winterfox able to see the signs nice and early and gamble on the bomb site based on what they do or don't see. As I say, that Desi runs down mid and gets a triple, almost a quad. Abe picking up the trade fag eventually there on Desi, but he's already got 3 for the round. Flowsick holding the W key down as hard as he can, already getting bottom Nana as well, and picking up 1, and what should be the second one here comes in nicely. 2 kills there for Flowsick, 3 for Desi, and as quick as it was 3-0 to the Terrorist, the CSPs in Winterfox have mounted a nice little run here, stringing together 4 and really sorting out their money for at least a couple of rounds.
Yeah, Winterfox really starting to wrestle back some control in this match, and I might just say that the combination of Professor Chaos and Junior Nasty really just sound like they're the 2 forgotten members of the Wu-Tang Clan. But nonetheless, Abe is able to pick up Anger at the top of Banana there and just leave Flowstick with a lot to do. He does have a great angle and is able to pick up that return frag quite easily. And again, just throw a nice little attempted one-way here and wait for his teammate to back him up. They have committed 2 CT members to this B bomb site, and Flowstick copped that flash, and thankfully to his smoke he's able to get away, and they are just playing a very patient game here at the moment, Splyce. They are just waiting for those CTs to peak, but that clock is ticking.
And Splyce pretty content with just waiting for Winterfox to make mistakes. They picked up a kill early, but they're not going to get so lucky over and over as XP3 and Desi pick out at 2 separate choke points, but the result is the same, getting a kill each. Jason R has found his way out of Carpet, so that's Davies found his way to Carpet, close 8. He doesn't know where Lex is in the pit, but unfortunately will not be able to connect the kill, and it will all be left up to the man I passionately call Junior Nasty to win an epic 3 versus 1. He won't even get the first. XP3 getting super aggro and taking him down. So at this point, we see the Splyce's money is in that grey area, that area where it always looks really attractive to buy and you think you can get something out of it, but over the course of a game, you probably look back and think to yourself, we should have ecoed. So smartly, they've just opted for the Tech 9s and grenades, and they're going to try and make this work for them, probably at middle B.
I just want to give a massive shout out while we can to XP3. He's doing a fantastic job with the AWP at the moment, locking down the sites, but you can see perhaps scared off by that AWP. They've opted towards B, trying to stay away from him, but Flowsick and Anger are having a field day as they take down 4 members. They try and make it the 5th, but JR Nasty shows us a little bit of it right there and gets 2 for himself before he gets taken down. But the key for me, and always a great, I guess, an indication of the fact that an AWP is doing well, apart from the scoreboard, is also their money. You can see that XP3 actually has $11,000 at the moment. Now, we all know how expensive the sniper rifle is, and the fact that he's been able to build up that economy really just suggests that he's been able to stay alive and have that impact on the match so far. Great job, XP3. Obviously hailing from France.
Yeah, and we've got a 6-round streak here for Winterfox, which means that from here on in, Splyce will be buying until they can manage to get themselves around. But the quick jungle control comes here, and I like this from Splyce as they force their way past the orb of XP3, but into the waiting arms of Desi and his AK, who will pick up 1 and 2 headshots, and now will fall back in an excellent position. On the other side of the map, Aria picks up Flowsick, but I think the damage has been done here. The bomb has been lost up jungle, and it will just be a little too much for Splyce to try and recover from. But in saying that, Ari has managed to find his way up jungle, and Davies found his way out of Carpet here. So an excellent turnaround round here for Splyce as they try and find out where the last player of the CTs is. They found him in the side. Can they connect? Anger's managed to find one somehow. I'm not actually sure how A, he managed to survive, and B, managed to kill Davey, but it will be a 1 versus 1 now. And unfortunately for Anger, he's decided that the plant was probably going to come into B, and he's guessed wrong. The flank pretty well played by Aria. Not sure how Anger thought that Aria had got back. Maybe he thought he'd run back down mid, but Anger will find his way back to jungle, trying to win this 1v1. It doesn't look as though he's all that keen to try and proceed with winning the round, but now he gets the gas on and tries to pick up the last kill. Does spy the one in pit. We'll see that AWP and make an excellent choice there, picking up the sniper for his teammate XP3 and getting out of there with the gun intact.
Interesting read there from XP3, should I say. But I guess he didn't really know the position of the bomb at all there. It was down, it was covered by 2 smokes, and perhaps thinking that, or overthinking that situation, led to his demise, and obviously now Splyce back in the game. They did lose a lot of members though, so minimal utility you do see on Abe, but nonetheless they are just sticking with this frantic pace, and XP3 is just ready and waiting with that AWP top mid. The trade does come in quite well as Professor Chaos exacts some revenge on his teammate there. Jason R, though, does pick up Lex at that mini pit area, and they do have control of this A site. Only, I believe, Desi to contend with there in Diggity, as he does a good job of holding things for the moment, but it's not too long before Professor Chaos can get that return frag onto him. Flowstick, though, does catch Aria off guard, and now pulling it back to a 2v2. Or 2v1, should I say, and Anger just cleaning up the round at what looked like a very strong start from Splyce. Really pulled apart there by Winterfox.
Yeah, that's the worst possible scenario for the Splyce boys, because not only have they managed to finally win a round, they've immediately won one and lost one, which has reset their money bonus. And to go on top of that, the round that they won only had 1 surviving player. So they've managed to almost tactically lose around Winterfox. They've lost it at a great time for them, in which they've successfully reset the terrorist money. So, you know, not the worst round in the world to lose for Winterfox, but I love the aggression that they showed on jungle that round. And just as they were at that tipping point last time, they've now decided to go for the Tech 9s and try and make the 1 AK and 4 Tech 9s work for them at B.
I like this decision though. They've recognised that really they were looking at down the barrel, perhaps a double eco if they were to fully save. So they've really tried to force the hand of Winterfox here by buying. They do have a few utility grenades to support their cause, and they will now funnel their way into the B site. Great use of a Molotov. Does trap Flowstick there at the second Orange's box, and he does get taken down by Abe, and as Professor Chaos drops XP3, all of a sudden it looks as though Splyce are making this work, despite being at the disadvantage of what you would have said at the start of the round. And smoke is no obstacle for Aria, as Desi does fall through to the spray there that does come down, and all of a sudden Lex is left in a situation where surely he will be saving his gun, and really you'd have to say his teammates will be asking themselves, what just went wrong there? How did we just lose to Tech 9s and an AK?
Well, Splyce have finally cottoned on to the fact that, or followed on the fact that Winterfox are playing B incredibly defensively. They're not taking banana control at all. They're not smoking the bottom of banana. They're not chain molotoving off the top of banana like we've sort of gone through at the start of the game, which is a very typical form of controlling the B side of the map. They haven't really played it aggressively other than on anti-ecos at all. So Splyce recognize this. They go right for that B site and cash in with not only a round win, but they escape with a lot of rifles in this situation, and they get to the magic number of 5, which I think from here on in, if they get any more rounds, they will definitely be in a good position.
I just want to give a massive kudos to Aria there, the in-game leader for Splyce, who made that decision to buy in that instance. I think a lot of teams, particularly in our Australian scene, would have ecoed off the back of winning and losing a round, but that decision to force that buy, in the end won them the round, but I think it was a really bold and smart play in the context of the situation. Hats off to him. Yeah,
not just the buy, but the decision to go back towards B, where they had experienced a lot of success in getting into the site and getting those trades early on. So it looks to be that they will, again, try and emulate that success and put pressure on that B site early on. As you can see, the bomb is just sitting in that banana. And not really committed to any sites at the moment, just content to sit back as Desi does find Davey trying to set up a Molotov there and does swing things back in the way of Winterfox. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Splyce head back towards banana.
Yeah, excellent set of grenades and aim there by Desi, picking up the headshot first of all, and then collecting a second kill with the grenade. And not only did the Splyce money get reset, but the Winterfox money is now on tilt as well. So any kill that can come in here for Splyce will be ever so crucial, as XP3 does find a kill at B and really shut down this B push. But they will try and find their way back. I think Professor Chaos will try and get that jungle pick. Desi getting his third kill of the round. An excellent round for him. And he will just push down mid here and try and find the nastiest player in the server at the moment on T-side. 10 kills, 5 assists in only 12 rounds of Counter-Strike action so far. So Junior Nasty is really living up to his name at the moment and putting in work for Splyce. And even though a lot of the players go Winterfox's way, you can see how crucial winning that pistol has become. Instead of being down potentially something like 11-2, something around that margin, they've now gone to 8-5, and they're in a much better position when they switch over to the CT side, regardless of how these last few rounds pan out.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me to see Jason R or JR Nasty on the top of the scoreboard. I mean, he has a bit of a rap on him for being one of the rising talents in the Canadian CSGO scene and doing a good job at the moment, at least helping his team grind out these rounds, but Flowstick and Anger show that sometimes they can be aggressive with Banana, and look at the effect it does have as they really slaw Splyce in their, I guess, positions there, and that will be another round going the Winterfox's way. 9-5. They'll be wanting to get this final round though. Always you feel more confident when you have that double-digit first half leading into what will be most certainly a difficult terrorist side.
As quickly as we gave the credit to Aria for making the bold decision to get those Tech 9s to go back to B, the speed of that round was horrible for the Splyce team. All the rounds that have been successful for them so far, even the B ones, have been a sort of slow, methodical, waiting for the smokes to dissipate and then trying to puncture a hole in the bomb site. And the last 2 rounds, look at all the HPs for, but this could be absolutely huge for Flowstick. He slightly mistimed the spray. He could have gone absolutely movie, but Anger will try and do it, getting 1, 2, 3. Can he get the 4th? He's looked the wrong way, but he still gets the 4th. Can he team down? Flowstick has come in at the last minute to steal his 5-man. But the speed just then for Splyce ruined them in the last 2 rounds. And they really have shot themselves in the foot there a bit, not just in terms of the rounds winning and losing, but also the momentum. They've given Winterfox an upper hand, a nice comfortable entry into their T side, and they'll be feeling pretty comfortable after the way that half ended.
Yeah, they're going to be fairly comfortable, as you said, with the way things have gone for them in that half. But, of course, this is Winterfox's map choice, and definitely going to be looking to capitalise on any momentum that they've gained in this first half.
It just seemed to me, though, from an observer's point of view, that Splyce's tempo seemed a little bit off. Whenever we saw them on a full buy and a full gun round, they always seemed to be moving very, very slowly, very, very methodically. Whereas when we saw them on the ecos or the force buys, or quasi-buys as some people refer to it, they're moving at a much faster tempo. Now, that's the sort of thing that I think Winterfox, with the experienced players that they've got in their team, such as XP3, such as Lex, they'll be able to switch onto that and recognise that and almost get a read on what the enemy's economy is, based purely off what sort of early grenades and pressure is being shown by Team Splyce. So something to keep in mind, I think, for Splyce moving forward, perhaps being a little bit more dynamic with their tempo.
Yeah, and of course, such a huge pistol round here for both teams, but particularly Winterfox. If they can manage to get this pistol round, then it's going to make their life a lot easier. Try to close out this game, but Aria doesn't want a bar of it, so he doesn't want the Winterfox win to come in at all, taking down Desi straight away. But a great grenade there, coming over the wall and smashing him down, 58 HP right on the head. And the man advantage still sticks with Splyce, but it looks as though the whole of Winterfox is pretty content with coming B, regardless of how fast or slow they have to take it. They're all grouping up here, and it's all going to be left up to Aria to try and defend against 4 members of Winterfox crashing into the site. Here comes the smokes and the flashes as they raid over the roof. It's going to be all on Aria, but he's chosen to just hold that connect a bit very defensively. A smart choice here, and you can see he will pick up a kill onto Anger, and that's a great move there by Aria, but unfortunately he's let his teammate down by letting XP3 through CT, and this is going to cause more problems than it may be solved for his team. But Aria doing a great job there, flanking once again and picking up another kill. Now it's all in the hands of Lex in a 3v1, and Aria does go down eventually, but has got Lex down to just 5 points of health, and a big plant here coming in for Lex. So fantastic job by the pro there, getting the bomb down, but that can all be put down to the patience and the discipline shown by Aria and his positioning to get into connector and not take fights he couldn't win.
Yeah, that was an interesting round in the sense that they opted to continue pushing through CT, seeing no presence of any counter-terrorists at all, and pushing into that spawn, and ultimately led to their demise because they were simply compressed there by Aria choosing to hold connector, getting that frag, and was then able to put a lot of pressure. And the T's were collapsed on from both sides by the counter-terrorists there, and whilst there were a few hairy moments, they did manage to wrestle back controls to Splyce, picking up that all-important pistol round.
Yeah, and you can see that with that plant coming in, the Winterfox guys just opting for a pistol, no armor approach here. It should be a pretty simple round to defend itself. Junior Nasty picking up the Tripper Diggity, which is the car side of mid, and it won't be long before the round's over. Professor Chaos, his alter ego, Butterstotch from South Park, obviously huge fan of Professor Chaos in and out of South Park. Doing the work there, picking up the last 2 kills after the trip from JR Nasty. And here's the first round that really matters for Winterfox, because if they go down this time and get themselves back on eco, this is the sniff that a team like Splyce needs to get back in the game. So Aria and Abe will make up the B defense here, and Professor Chaos, Junior Nasty, and Davey will try and defend that A bomb site, taking a pretty cruisy approach, just wending themselves into the round, not taking anything particularly quickly on either side. You can see how defensive the CTs are, almost making a diagonal line across the map, just building a wall and saying to the Winterfox guys, you know where we are, come and get us. And the smokes and flashes will come into mid, and just a bit of probing here from Winterfox. So a pop flash here, Desi and his teammates get out of mid and now have that control I was talking about. Professor Chaos has fallen back into spawn and has left a little bit of an opening here for the T's to try and exploit, but great Gren work here by the CTs getting in. Anger will find Professor Chaos, and Junior Nasty will find Electric. The trade will come in. Flowstick and Anger put the pain on Splyce as well, and now it's all left up to Davey, stranded in the pit, and just that really even-tempoed, nice speed, a great execution, good teamwork there from Winterfox, slowly making their way up mid and taking advantage of all those little 1v1s that they wanted to take.
Yeah, I love the way the Winterfox in that situation. I mean, they would have known that Splyce had a lot of utility to work with, as we just see Flowstick hit that final frag onto Davey. But obviously with Splyce winning the first 2 rounds of the half, they had a lot of money to play with and they had a lot of utility to support themselves. But Winterfox were able to get Splyce to expend that utility very early on into the round with about 35 to 40 seconds left. They didn't have much to go by other than their rifles in hand. So great work by Winterfox, applying pressure at a few key choke points across the map to really set themselves up well for the late round.
Good patience.
Yeah, absolutely. And Splyce here just deciding that they don't want to take on that force buy, which is a great decision, having been in a decent position. So a couple of the players from Winterfox just sitting back and taking advantage of the fact that their enemies at the moment aren't particularly well armed. Junior Nasty just left with a, looks like a 5.7. Yeah, it's a 5.7 and a flash, no armor. So he's going to be looking to maybe pick up a free AK or maybe just save his pistol as he narrowly misses spotting out one of the terrorists walking behind him. But he has spotted one here. Can he make the kill? It'll be fantastic for him if he can pick up the rifle here, but unfortunately Lex kills that dream. And if you're Winterfox, sorry, if you're Splyce right now, PK, how do you play the CT round?
I think you'd be asking yourself that as well in this sort of situation, because now obviously they're looking at the scoreboard. They know they're down quite a lot, 12-7, but they can't afford to really give the T's too much more rounds to play with, obviously, but too much more money, probably just as importantly. So they've force-bought in this sort of situation. Fortunately, Davey with the shotgun will put it to good use in the close quarters of A apartments, but I think from a Splyce point of view, you need to change something up, and they're trying to do that. They're going aggressive at B here, trying to take their territory away, but at the moment, it's their lives that are just being taken away from them, as Anger, I think, has picked up one frag. Flowstick did get one as well before he did get taken down, and in the end, you can see Winterfox trying to capitalise off the back of those frags, but I think the fact that those frags occurred so far down Banana really meant that there was too much territory for them to try and take to get into B before the rotation occurred. So they have fallen back now, but this is really going to put Splyce in a horrible position where they don't have to gamble on a site. You can see all 3 members are at B, but the bomb casually making its way up towards A, but Anger doesn't bother him anyway. He's still finding the frags, does take down Davey, and not content, charges in, ultimately falls down, but got the information that I think one, if not both members, you would have seen of Splyce there in the B site. So this will be another round going Winterfox's way. 13-7 and getting very, very precarious now for them.
Yeah, and a great piece of decision making from Winterfox there. After they got those picks in Banana, Anger literally pulled out his knife and bolted straight up Banana and took the risk that there was not a third player there, thus giving the illusion that Winterfox were charging up Nana and going to take control of that bomb side. They drew all the presence away from A, and then after Anger got smoked and flashed off, he still kept presence there, just enough to give the illusion that Winterfox were going to come into that B bomb site, and then his team slowly made their way back to A in the perfect read. That's the way you want these sort of rounds to unfold. Multiple choke points, putting pressure on, making the CTs make a read, and then I guess making a counter read back towards the other bomb site and getting that plan in a successful round.
Yeah, and Anger doing a great job of continuing to sell that fake as well, managing it to even pick up a frag and convince the CTs even further that B was going to be the objective and just keeping them there. We will see another forced buy come in from Splyce in this situation. As you can see, they are really low on utility, even opting for no head armor at all. Anger just eliminates Aria at the top of Banana there, and will continue all the way up Banana. But if it isn't for the work of Davey, they would have had an even stronger man advantage as they do take this B site and now have to contend with the aptly named Junior Nasty, who does pick up a frag through the smoke and will continue to do damage from his CT position. So he's done a great job there in eliminating that man advantage, and we'll just wait for his teammate to rotate through. As you can see, the bomb is very slow. It's coming along with Lex to get into that B site, so they have re-smoked the arch, and it's just allowed the CT's time to get into position and make this read, and this 2v2 retake will come out as a result. Now, Chase Nara has actually pushed all his weight into the connector and has picked up the first frag, and it's now all to do for Lex. That bomb is planted for him, so he is aware of the position of at least one of the CTs, and without tapping that bomb, he's simply made the situation all that more easier for his team to win, as Professor Chaos does have that kit now. Will perhaps greedily go for that AWP. He needs to get the defuse first, though. So good work from him. Splyce back into this, but that money bonus is going to hurt.
Yeah, if my research and watching some of the NAFPL recently is anything to go by, I think it's very important that they get on that defuse ASAP before that bomb explodes.
I mean, at the end of the day, that was a must-win for Splyce, even though it wasn't actually game point. If they go down there and lose that round, then certainly Winterfox are completely confident that they can close out this game. As it stands, Winterfox probably have the next gun round in them before they might have to consider equaling. Maybe they get one more round out depending on the kills, but once again, Aria taking the onus on himself, pushing out Nana, picking up that AWP kill and starting off the round really positively for Splyce. We can see that the rest of his team, Desi, Lex, and the two boys from Splyce are going to meet up here, and Desi will make the trade onto Professor Chaos. Davey just waiting there for the trade kill. He will find an excellent anticipation there from Davey as he takes down Desi in that goblin room through the wooden boards. And 2 versus 4 here, so a great opportunity here for Splyce to not only win the round but shore up their money. It is important that they do not sort of undersell the importance here of making sure they get out alive with as many players as they can to avoid those ecos. But as it stands, Floysic will pick up Junior Nasty, and they do know another one is in the pit, so this is actually what looked to be an easy win has now turned into a horrible situation here for the Splyce team, as Aria and Abe are going to try and have to make this work in a 2 versus 2. Abe does pick up a great kill and falls back through the smoke, waiting for Aria to back him up here. So a good piece of patience and teamwork once again being displayed here by the Splyce guys, as XP3 is trapped in the bomb site all alone, nowhere to go, and having to fight off 2 CTs from 2 different angles. It should almost be impossible to win, and Aria does the job there. And Abe just circling around the bomb site a few times, cutting a few sick laps, so Aria can maybe get down mid and get an AWP perhaps. Not sure what the situation is. Yes, that's the case. He's left his AWP a tree. The delay on the defuse is so he can get the AWP, and a nice round win in the end for Splyce.
So a pause has just come in. I think one of the players, I think Desi might have lagged out, but I just want to point out the fact that even though Splyce, I mean, they've done a fantastic job in winning the last 2 rounds. They've actually been very close rounds. I mean, they've had 1 and 2 members survive respectively in the 2 rounds, but as a result of the nature and the difficulty that they've had closing them out, you can see that they're really still in a horrible financial position where they've fully invested everything just now and they've left with really nothing in the bank if we look at the scoreboard there. So definitely Winterfox will be reminding themselves of that. Certainly the in-game leader in the team, I think XP3, but also Lex as well, who has assumed IGL responsibilities in the past and is definitely really the heart and soul of the team. I think they'll just be reminding Anger, Flosic and Dizzy right now that they're on the cusp. If they can just get that one round win, they're in a great position to close it out.
Yeah, CTs are on this horrible cycle now of having to force buy because they're losing so many members during the round. It's costing them so much money. That win bonus is not covering their losses at all, and they just need to keep buying with Winterfox being so close to match point.
Yeah, it's just a situation here for Winterfox where you're so close, but Splyce actually have a much easier run downhill if they can get a few rounds back-to-back as they have. So they've got 2 rounds here, 2 diffuser rounds. But if they can get maybe 3 or 4 in a row here, I think you'll find that Winterfox will start sweating a little bit. And an excellent shot there again from Arya, taking down Danger Man Anger nice and early. So an excellent start once again to the round for Splyce. Trying to make this comeback work, and they need every possible kill, and they need to play as disciplined as they can, as we've elocuted, to try and keep them on top of their money game. So they're not over the hill yet. A couple more rounds are required to really get back in this game, but they've taken the first major step, and I'm a little bit lost for words here because Arya and Professor Chaos are in such a great position to try and make a play to clear out second mid and mid. You can see all members of Winterfox in Banana, and they've left the entirety of mid and second mid completely open. So surely someone from Splyce can push, get any sort of information to make that rotate back towards B. But as it stands, the smokes and flash is going to rain in over B, and it's going to be left with just 2 members there. Desi able to get very quickly in, but A picking up a double. So not bad B defense, and there's still one player dwindling in the smoke. It will be Davey, but he won't find Flosic, and what looked once again to be an easy round for Splyce, just getting that first frag and getting that control has turned into a pretty tense 2 versus 2, and this time Winterfox have Desi and Flosic at the helm versus Professor Chaos and Arya, both players for Winterfox in the connector, just trying to out-fox their opponents in the wintertime. Flosic making his way around pretty easily there. Not great teamwork used by Splyce to even eliminate any sort of possibilities before they tried to get on the bomb and win that. So excellent decision there by Winterfox, but Splyce will be feeling like that's the one that got away.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they got that opening frag there with Arya doing that fantastic up shot down mid, but I think you called it perfectly when you're just talking about the fact that they really weren't probing for any more information in terms of that little mid-round situations. So it left them with a horrible time when they had to go and rotate and try and retake B later on with really the site completely relinquished. We can see Flosic does get the opening frag there through a wall and a headshot, mind you, and as I think the Go TV might have just skipped a little bit because I think 3 players just instantly died, but you can see that Splyce, I mean, they'd invested in a few pistols, trying to give themselves some life in what was perhaps the penultimate round, but you can see that Winterfox will seal the deal and now move towards 6 match points, 15-9. Can they get the first map win on the board here in this BO2 format?
Yeah, and Flosic and Anger have really come to play.
I was going to say that joke earlier, Pete, that dry humour, honestly drier than Winterfox's result sheets at the moment, but nonetheless.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, nonetheless,
wow.
They are on match point over Splyce here at the moment and are taking their time, and they have been locked out of Banana early on and have opted to take control of second mid here. Lex is on point in the carpet. That flash somehow works in his favour and does pick up a frag onto Professor Chaos. As you can see, Winterfox just amassing in that second mid area. Just happy to let Splyce have Banana control. Davey does find a reply frag onto Flosic. And in the meantime, though, they are going to stream up that site in towards the archers there. And the trades are coming left, right, and centre. Winterfox do manage to pull 2 back in their favour with Lex picking up a second frag for the round. And that one being through smoke onto Davey. And it's all to do for young Arya over here. And that smoke really limits his options, and nonetheless, Anger just taking things into his own hands there. 16-9 to score for Winterfox over Splyce, and Winterfox winning their map choice.
Yeah, no great surprise there. A little disappointed, I guess, in Splyce and just the last 3 or 4 rounds of both both halves. I mean, obviously their second half didn't complete itself, and Winterfox were able to close it out early, but Splyce weren't even really sure of what was working and why a lot of the time. So they hadn't actually taken a step back and saying, when we win a round, what's actually happening to win the round? It's just sort of they seem to just run out of spawn with some kind of agenda, and if it panned out, they won the round. If it didn't pan out, they didn't win the round. But there didn't seem to be a lot of thought process going into the mid-round decisions, but also the tactics there, particularly on CT, as they decided to quite a number of times double up on carpet, which, as I said, they didn't get that second mid and mid push to get that extra information to make the B defense nice and easy. So playing those two players at carpet is extremely risky compared to playing really aggressive banana, because if the smoke fades at bottom banana and there's no one there, you can still take control of mid. Whereas once the smokes and flashes fade out of carpet, you're still stuck in very small rooms with very tight angles. So just a little bit of variance in strategy there for Splyce. But well played by Winterfox.
I think you have to give, I think by the same token, because I agree what you say, but I think you have to give also Winterfox a lot of credit for, I guess, creating that environment in which it was difficult to make those decisions. I mean, particularly when we saw Winterfox on the T side, which was, of course, the second half of the match. We saw very early on in their gun rounds, we gave them credit for putting a lot of pressure on a lot of different choke points. And I think the point we made at the time was that Splyce